Now that you've worked on an object for your nice hero, it's time for us to dig deeper on how to improve that object with what we call our design cards. So I want you to look at your object and consider a couple questions. First of all, is your object easy to use? Are there features that maybe need to be added to make it more accessible? So think about who your hero is, what your object is. Could you add anything to it to make it easier? Now remember, you're not going to have to pay for this. We're not actually building this. So if you want to use some space age technology, things that you've heard about, or just imagine, you can do that. What would make this object easier to use? Is it going to fly? Is it going to float? Is it going to magnet to the chair? Whatever it might be. Now think again about your object and consider what changes could you make if you didn't have to worry about price. So if we could use all of that technology, what would you change about it? What would you add to it? Then consider the flip side. If we do have to worry about money, how would you change the design? What could you do to your object to make it more affordable? That'll give you kind of a nice spectrum of possibilities for your object. Next, think about if your object is different from something that's already available. So does something like what you just designed or imagined exist in the real world? If not, how will it be better than what exists? So if you're building something totally new or something a little bit different, why would your hero choose this instead of what they could go get on Amazon, right? Next, think about what would your product look like if it was 10 times bigger, right? So now think about size. If you literally blew it up to be 10 times bigger, what would it look like? Would it still work? Then, of course, we're going to try the flip. What would happen if it was 10 times smaller, right? Easier to carry, maybe easier to put in place. Whatever your object is, how does size impact it? Finally, what's your object going to be made of? Is it materials that your nice hero could afford? Is it materials that are sustainable, something that could be easily accessed, right? So consider what your object is made of and maybe how you change that to make it a better object. So as you consider these questions, we're going to have you pause again and update your object. Create your second version based on some of these questions and as you rethink what your hero needs. And then we'll come back to put your object to the test.